is Sarah Warner reporting here from HR from Happy Valley. I am a senior studying hospitality management at Penn State University. Today's segment will be focusing on dress code in the workplace and how the standards are changing because of the pandemic. First, I will give some background on this topic, and then I will share the interviews I had with some great people who I will introduce in a few minutes. So grab a snack and get comfortable because it's time to begin. Dressing well has always been important at work. How a person presents themselves can demonstrate how their attitude is towards work. How employees dress at their place of work can also reflect on a company's image. That is why most companies have some form of dress code policy in place. Businesses want to have some form of professionalism through how their employees look. From the outside as a consumer, most people would rather choose a business to work with where everyone looks professional and put together. With that in mind, businesses create regulations about what their employees wear to work, whether that be formal business wear, business casual, a uniform, or just leaving it up to the employee. For some jobs, employees are never seen by customers, so they would adopt a more casual dress code. And other jobs, which are at higher class facilities, where appearance is very important to how they run their business, may adopt a more formal attire. Dress codes have evolved since the business suit was created way back in the 18th century. Men of power who ordinarily dressed quite extravagantly began to wear more practical clothing. Over time, the business suit evolved depending on the industry of work. Once the business suit became more regularly worn by people of varying status and career, a more casual tone took its place. Casual tech has recently become popular, and is where people are indifferent to their attire to show how focused they are on their work. This shows that dressing well has no indication to whether a person is a hard worker. The pandemic has changed and is still changing everything we know at a very rapid pace. Standards for sanitation, entertainment, and various other areas are included in those changes. In the middle of all of this, what people wear to work does not need to be so restricted and controlled. Working online is already difficult and complicated, whether that be a student missing assignments because they have 6 different websites to keep track of, or a business person not knowing where the end of the workday is because the office is now on their couch. People wear whatever they feel like when they're in their own homes, which is expected, whether that be a full suit, pajamas, or a dress shirt with sweatpants. People are wearing a variety of different clothes while working from home. What a person wears in their own home should not be dictated by other people, especially during a pandemic where there are plenty of other things to be stressed out about. Aside from the pandemic, what people wear at work is sometimes how customers, coworkers, and bosses judge a person's ability. Regan Gurung, a psychology professor at Oregon State University, said that according to 2 studies he conducted, women at least are rated by others as more competent when they wear formal attire, and that people actually act as though dress influences their abilities. He then went on to say, if your first impression is a good one and shows you're taking the job seriously, the association between being dressed well and credibility and knowledge is strong enough that what you do later doesn't matter as much. Essentially, what a person wears while they're at work is not related to their efficiency and work ethic. Angela Hall, an associate professor at Michigan State University, stated that people just generally know how to self-govern, and I don't think you need these archaic rules to punish that outlier that may or may not occur. Just cover the things you want covered and call it a day. A standard that should change from the pandemic would be to make people realize that it's not the clothes that make people a better worker. Brandon from Encore USA discussed a statistic that was the result of a 3-week social experiment about whether a formal or more relaxed dress code resulted in better productivity. The results of that experiment found that 61% of employees were more productive in a relaxed dress code environment. It allowed their confidence to rise, which in turn produced better work. That is a prime example showing that appearance is not the most important factor anymore. Even before the pandemic, dress codes were becoming more relaxed, with casual tech being an example of that. With the pandemic and people working from home, being comfortable is becoming a more important factor in what we wear. In an article from News Northeastern, Sarwari K. and Sarwari K. said that people over the last year have developed a new way of being, a new way of defining who they are, maybe prioritizing themselves a little bit more in their comfort because we need that to survive and go on a day-to-day basis. All of these people are talking about how our clothes are changing along with everything else after COVID-19. Now that I have given a bit of background on the topic, let's hear from my first guest, Kelsey White. Kelsey is the Director of Talent Acquisition and Compensation at HEI Hotels and Resorts and was kind enough to share some insight on this topic. Well, Kelsey, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm great, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
So let's dive right in. Could you tell me about your experiences as a recruiter and what would you say is the best part of it?
Absolutely. I somewhat fell into talent acquisition. I worked on property for our hotels as a human resources lead, so really handled everything. And when I moved into more of the corporate side, again, really just fell into that talent acquisition world and recruiting for various management roles across our organization. I think my favorite part about it, especially in my position now, I am fortunate where I get to see everything from a bird's eye view. And I think the best part is really just the internal mobility. So having somebody that maybe is a number 2 in a hotel being promoted to a general manager, or moving from an entry level supervisory position into more of a management role. And those type of progressions are something that we really focus on at HEI. And it's certainly the most exciting part of my job.
It's really cool. I like that you get to see the whole process. So how has it been working with people all online?
It's definitely different. I have actually been working remotely for 4.5, 5 years at this point. So the pandemic was not something that entirely rocked my world from that perspective, but our entire corporate office did go remote about a year ago at this point. And so for many of them who were based in our corporate offices in Connecticut or really across the country that might have been in other areas, it's definitely been different for them. And having to learn how to communicate and even supervise people, you're doing that over the phone. Interviews are definitely different for some positions. You know, a lot of them have always started with more of that virtual phone conversation before you bring somebody in to meet on site at one of our hotels or in our corporate office. But more of the process now, the second, the third, maybe even the fourth interview might be held virtually. You might be talking to somebody over a computer screen where you're typically meeting them in person. So we have really needed to shift some of our practices to make sure we're still getting that personal interaction, which is so key in our industry, because at the end of the day, the majority of the opportunities that we have are in a hotel. There is no opportunity to work virtually. You're there with our guests, you're there with our associates. And so trying to find that mix and that hybrid to keep it safe has really been interesting to go through. My shift was more so coming back into an environment where everybody was now doing this, not just, me in my remote role. So that was really where my change happened.
What do you think is one of the most important things when hiring people?
Yeah, I think more so than ever, it's really the soft skills. You can teach the technical components. You can teach how to use a PMS system, how to log into an HR program, a training program, whatever it might be. But you can't teach somebody how to have a personality and how to have integrity. Those are things that are just innate, and you need to come to the table with those in order to really be successful in our company, at least. So when going through interviews, that's certainly something that we look for. And with some of the recruitment challenges that we're facing today, oftentimes you're not getting people with experience that are applying or looking for opportunities. So that's more important than ever that we need to look for those key areas.
Yeah, like they always say in my major, it's always, we're all about the people and hospitality. So you definitely have to have good personality.
Exactly.
Bouncing off of that one, how important would you say that how someone dresses is when hiring people?
It's key. I mean, it's your first impression on somebody. Before they even open their mouth, you're seeing how they present themselves, and what they're wearing is part of that. I know this is kind of a cliche and a corny saying, but it's true. You need to dress for the job that you want. Do you need to be in a tuxedo every day, a ball gown? No, that's not realistic. But if you're going into an interview, if you're coming in for your first day on the job, you need to dress in business attire. You need to be well put together. Certain hotels and our corporate office, for example, might have different uniform styles. based on the type of property they are. Maybe the brands have different expectations that they have set. So there's just certain things that will change from hotel to hotel. But at the end of the day, as a leader, as a manager, having that professional attire and showing up as you want to be successful is really key.
What would you say that an impressive candidate should wear, or like what are they wearing for, say, an entry level job?
I would say, again, business attire. You don't need to be in a tux, but you need to be well groomed, well put together. Even if that hotel, it's more casual, maybe you've been there before and you see that the general manager, let's just say, is in jeans because that's part of their uniform, or maybe they were doing jeans Friday or something like that. You still show up wearing what you need to and being dressed professionally. You want to make sure your hair is neat. You want to make sure your nails are well kept. We're certainly a little bit past the neutral coloring of nail polish and things like that have historically been requirements in hotels. I think what's really exciting is that as we see the development of different boutique hotels and lifestyle brands, a lot of those really do have more of an edge to them. And the concepts that they develop around it allow for more flexibility when it comes to the attire that you're wearing and even just the grooming overall. Tattoos are much more common in certain types of hotels now because that's part of the style. That's part of the vibe that they want to give off. And piercings are the same way. But at the end of the day, you have to go into that environment pretending like you don't know that almost, and learning that after the fact. Because if it's not something that's okay, you certainly don't want to get off on the wrong foot and have those type of things be overlooked and not be able to present your experience as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely easier to go more casual after because first impression is so important.
You can always tone it down, but you can't go back and tone it up. So
would you say that what an impressive candidate is wearing differs if you're hiring them for an entry level or higher up management position?
Does it differ? Yes. Should it differ? Probably not. I think oftentimes, this is a bit of a generality, but oftentimes more of those entry level positions, you do get more of a younger crowd that are coming in for those because they're just starting their career. They're getting that experience and then they hope to grow into those more senior level opportunities. So sometimes that does happen where somebody coming in for an interview for an entry level role might be dressed more casually than, let's just say, somebody interviewing for a general manager position, because that GM candidate will typically have had experience with several interviews for several different companies and positions and know the importance of that first impression, whereas somebody that's a bit more junior in their career might not. So at the end of the day, I am going to repeat myself again. I feel like a broken record, but you dress for the job that you want. If you want to excel in your career and you want to move forward, you really need to put your best foot forward in that interview and be wearing that same type of suit that maybe the general manager has, the same style at least, and really to be dressing up, dressed to impress and make that great first impression, regardless of the position that you're being considered for.
Have you noticed a change in what people used to wear versus now?
Yeah, you kind of have your two groups of people. You have your associates that are in your hotels, right? They're the guest facing ones, the ones dealing with our team members day in and day out. And then you have, more of our corporate team, our task force teams that are traveling a bit more. And so the variances between the two are definitely there. You might be having a call with somebody from the corporate office. And I say this not only about our corporate office, but other industry leaders as well. And even some of our vendors who I'm on video calls with often. Some of them are as casual as wearing baseball hats and just kind of like hoodies and sweatshirts in their meetings, which is totally fine. That's how their companies are. Our CEO is often found in just a polo or even like an HEI branded sweatshirt. And I will say that is often how he dressed in our corporate office. We've always had a very relaxed feeling with jeans and, still nice, not terribly relaxed, but more casual than an entire business environment. So that's definitely become more relaxed, but it's also contingent on the meeting that you're having and really understanding who you're talking to. I know that if I'm having a meeting with our CEO, he might be wearing that, but I'm not going to be wearing that because I want to make a good impression. And I want to make sure that I don't look like I'm too relaxed or that I didn't take the time to look nice for our meeting. And I would do the same thing if I was in person. Now at our hotels, obviously they can't wear sweatshirts. They can't wear baseball hats when they're working. And that's never been the case. I will say that in the trenches of the pandemic. You know, if we kind of consider ourselves to be on the path to recovery, which I think we are right now, we were very limited in our staffing, and we were very limited in our business, of course, meaning the staff that was there, it was all hands on deck. So you might have had our general managers that are cleaning rooms all day long. That's all they did. They had 17, 18 rooms that they would clean. And therefore, they might not be wearing that suit that they typically would, or that nice dress and heels that they typically would. They probably dressed down a little bit that day, which they wouldn't have normally done because they were more in front of the guests. So that component has relaxed slightly. But as we do start to see some recovery, many hotels are crazy busy right now, especially down in Florida and certain other markets that we have. They're sold out almost every night. And so things are getting back to that normal state. I will say that we've made communication with our hotels to make sure that they are back to making sure uniforms are in place, that everybody has them. They're appropriately sized and laundered and taken care of so that we are having that positive impression on our guests. So it's gone a little bit back and forth, but it's trending back towards a more normal environment at our hotels.
Well, that's good. I feel like we're getting closer to going back to more normalcy soon, too.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay, so based on all of that we just talked about, where would you like to see things today? Like in how people are dressing, virtual or not virtual?
Yeah, I think having a great first impression is so essential, especially in my position where when I'm talking to people externally and talking to candidates, regardless of the position that it's for, I'm probably only going to have 30 minutes to maybe an hour of your time. And who knows when we'll talk next, depending upon how that conversation went. So putting your best foot forward always is critical. And the same thing goes with our guests. They're the ones that we're really there for day in and day out, is to take care of them and to make sure their stay and their experience is exceptional. And if they walk in through those front doors and they see somebody who didn't comb their hair or doesn't have their shirt buttoned up right and it's wrinkled and not put together, automatically, before they even open their mouth, their impression is going to be, well, what does my room look like? If this person doesn't take care of themselves, how is my room being taken care of? And so those details are everything to somebody that's coming into the hotel and are really important that we continue to make sure they're fine-tuned. I think uniforms and just the overall presentation of hotels has been, over the past several years, trending towards a more relaxed environment. There are several brands that, let's just say in their food and beverage outlets, they do allow jeans. That's the uniform. They wear, a nice button-up shirt and they wear jeans with that. That's kind of more in the lifestyle concepts typically, but it is happening and it is trending that way. But as long as the uniform is in place, it's crisp, it's clean, the person seems well put together, that's what's going to elevate the experience for any guest that you come in contact with.
Well, those are all the questions I have today, Kelsey. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Wonderful. I appreciate you having me. I hope I was helpful.
I would like to thank Kelsey again for taking the time to join me in that conversation about dress codes in the workplace. It was helpful to gain some insight about the issue from a management perspective. Next, let's hear from a few friends of mine. So I'm here with a good friend of mine, Angeline Ruckel. Ange is a physician's assistant student at King's College. Because of the pandemic, Ange has been working from home on Zoom for quite some time now. Let's get some insight from her about dress today. So, Ange, what are you wearing for our interview?
Well, currently I'm still in my leggings and crop top from school today, but I'm about to put on my pajama pants.
Man, you didn't dress up for me?
No, I was going to put on a suit and tie, but I figured I'd dress a little casual.
Would you say that's typical for what you normally wear working from home, or is it more casual because it's just a couple of us friends talking on a Zoom call?
I typically always wear like a t-shirt and leggings or pajama pants, and if need be, I will dress up from the waist up, but pajama pants always stay on.
I guess you'd say you're more of a business on the top, party on the bottom kind of person, huh?
Oh, heck yeah.
What are your thoughts on the level of professionalism in today's virtual world? Do you think people are slacking off when it comes to their appearance, or are they more professional looking than usual?
I guess it would depend on the situation. Obviously, I'm not in the workforce yet, but I would consider college a full-time job, and just having to be on Zoom calls and stuff, depending on what we're doing. If it's a meeting, people will dress up, but I know that everyone's just dressed up from the waist up. I think the level of professionalism is still A-okay.
I know sometimes crazy things or even horror stories can happen on Zoom. You were telling me a funny one the other day, Ange. Care to share it again?
Yes. So, as I've stated, I'm obviously in college, and because of the pandemic, sometimes we have class online, even though most of my classes have been put into in-person setting. So, we were on a Zoom call for my Neuroscience 2 class, and she put us into breakout rooms. And when we come back from the breakout rooms, some people's camera just somehow come on. And this one kid that I've never talked to in my entire life, he was on the camera just completely shirtless. And it wasn't that you could just see his shoulders. He was like sitting back so you could see his entire abdomen not covered. And then he had a look of horror and ran to the camera to turn it off. I would say that's kind of a horror story. I wouldn't say that was professional. I feel like that could happen more so these days, that the camera accidentally comes on and you're not dressed appropriately for a situation.
Yeah, that also happened to me the other day. There was a girl and I was in class and one of our professors was asking her to put her camera on, and then she unmuted and she was like, "Sorry, I don't have a shirt on right now unless you really want me to put my camera on like this." We all had a good laugh about that in class. It looks like my other guest is ready to join us now. Another good friend of mine, Abigail Stevenson. Abby is a 2020 Penn State grad and is now working as a mechanical engineer. The pandemic has also forced Abby to work from home, but recently she has been in the office. Now that I have both of you here, let's dive a bit deeper into this topic. How important would you guys say physical appearance is in the workplace to you personally? Or do you think that's just like a little side factor? Abby, what do you think?
I think appearance to me is somewhat important because I want to look like I'm put together, but I don't want to wear a suit to work every day. It's not what I feel comfortable in, and I wouldn't work well in something like that. So I think it's different for everybody, and to an extent we should be like dressed nice, but I don't think suits and ties and all that are necessary.
What do you think, Ange?
I think it's become increasingly more important, but I just don't think that we should always base how people are off of how they look physically. Like, you tend to dress up for an interview, but that doesn't give any sort of indication of the kind of person or kind of worker that you're going to be. And I feel like we put too much emphasis on external appearance rather than other factors. For example, obviously I'm still in college, so I don't have an actual job, but when I used to work at Rite Aid Pharmacy, our previous uniform was khakis and a button-up polo. But once the pandemic started, we started to like be able to wear jeans, so it was a little less professional. But I honestly think like people found us more approachable. We were dressed like people who came into the pharmacy, and people tended to talk to us more. I definitely think there's a time and place to dress up, and I'm not against dressing up. I just don't think the pressure to dress up should be so great.
I think that's the point of dressing up, isn't it? The pressure. Like, anytime something big is happening at my work, everyone is in suits, and I feel like the point is to feel like you can't approach them and that you have to stand your ground on anything that's big, like a hierarchy kind of thing. You know, whenever certain people come in or certain things are going on, like, you have to dress up and you have to look nice, and it's kind of just associated with, if you don't, then like they're not going to take you seriously. So I think that is like kind of the purpose of the suit, is to make you feel like you're unapproachable, so like no one can kind of not tear you down, but
like question your ability.
It's like a confidence thing, but it's kind of weird because some people feel less confident in suits, so it's kind of contradictory at the same time.
Well, like, I don't know if you guys have seen like pictures of Adam Sandler or Bill Gates, and like obviously everyone knows, and like they know that they are big shots in like the business industry and they have a lot of money, and people don't doubt that, but they still tend to walk around in sweatpants and a t-shirt just like anybody else.
Yeah, I was actually reading an article the other day, and it was talking about how the really high up wealthy people in like tech now, they don't wear like suits. They just wear like a plain t-shirt and like jeans or like sweatpants, because like they have like so much money, or like everyone knows who they are. They don't care what they look like. It doesn't really matter. People still like them.
Yeah, and like if you didn't actually know who they are, you'd think they're just a normal person walking down the street. They don't care for people to know that they're quote unquote better than everyone else.
I feel like a part of that could also be like they don't have anything to prove at this point. It's like they already proved it. It's kind of like with the tech companies, they've already proved it. Everyone knows they're smart and accomplished and everything. Where like, other people are using suits because they do have something to prove. And there's a saying that says, don't dress for the job that you have now, dress for the job where you want to be. So it's like having something to prove and somewhere to go. And that's a lot of times why people dress like that as well.
Like I said, I'm not against like dressing up or anything. I just think sometimes the pressure to dress up is really too great for some people, because some people just aren't capable of it as much as other people. You know what I mean? But yeah. I still don't think that you should necessarily walk into the office in like shorts and like a tank top. But I don't see the reason why, like we were talking about, why you have to wear like the best suit. I think there's a happy medium.
I'm not gonna lie, I would love it if I could go to work in leggings and t-shirt. I'd be like so comfy, you know what I mean? Not have like a worry in the world. Because like sometimes like I like to dress cute, but it's not always comfortable. So like It would be nice just to dress in comfortable clothes.
Abby, would you say that how you would work would improve by how you dress if you were more comfortable?
I think so, because I can still like make comfy look cute too. So it's like the best of both worlds. But we all know that's never going to happen.
Well, thank you guys for your insights about today's professionalism. I also agree it does depend on the situation and the setting. Can either of you foresee any problems if we're all more casual in the workplace today? Or do you think we should strive to look more professional, virtual or not? I know we just discussed it depends on the situation, but overall, what do you think?
Stating before, like, I just think there could be like a happy medium. Like, I didn't mind at Rite Aid wearing khakis and a polo, but like, I still looked fine with a polo and jeans, you know? Like, I wasn't wearing ripped jeans and I wasn't wearing sweatpants. Like, I think there could be a happy medium. And like I said before, like, I don't think what you wear necessarily correlates with how you work or who you are as a person. So personally, I just don't find dressing up super important in all aspects. Like I said, that there's certain aspects in different jobs where dressing up is appropriate, and people like to dress up, but some people don't, and that's okay, you know?
What do you think, Abby?
Yeah, I agree with Ange. I feel like we should be able to wear whatever we want to an extent. You know, I love wearing jeans on Friday. Just gives it that good Friday feeling. I know sometimes your clothes kind of establish your position, so people above me would never be caught wearing jeans ever. So you kind of have a ranking like that. But I guess you could run into issues with authority there where lower employees are not taking their bosses seriously just by dressing, and affects the way people think and act. So I feel like you could run into that, but personally, I'd be fine with everyone just wearing whatever they want, whatever you feel comfortable in. I think productivity-wise, personally, it would help me.
I would like to thank Abby and Ange for joining me in that conversation about dress codes and professionalism. Now that we have heard insights from a few young people as well as an industry professional, I will conclude with these final thoughts. Having a dress code in the workplace will always be important. However, people should be able to choose what they wear to work within broader margins, especially now that everyone is so used to having the freedom to wear whatever they want working from home. I think businesses are afraid of this mindset because they fear people will show up to work in pajamas. That is why companies should still have some regulations in place. They should just be a little looser with them. It is very possible to look professional without wearing a confining suit every day. Of course, certain situations where a first impression is involved, such as an interview, would require more professional attire. For the other 99% of the time at work, formal business attire can be toned down. In the end, after a pandemic, the rules and ideas surrounding what is considered to be professional and what is not needs to be reevaluated for our ever-changing society. That concludes today's segment about dress codes in the workplace after a pandemic. I hope you enjoyed and were able to learn something either from me or from one of my guests. Make sure to tune in next time for the new episode of HR from Happy Valley, and stay safe, everyone.